Yu-Gi-Oh! Has always been about summoning the most toughest monsters in the game. Combining powerful effects alongside of cards has been the keys to victory since the inception of the card game. Sometimes we get into a situation where a Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategy is so powerful, it is the only deck that can compete. Today we're going to be talking about how that very first instance happened, why Chaos is a tier 0 Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck, and what happened afterward. Let's go ahead and jump on in. I want to start off by taking you to the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh! In this era, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did not have archetypes, though players would play cards alongside each other that worked really well. Some of the more popular decks during that time is Clown Control, a deck that revolved around Dream Clown and Crass Clown. There were also decks like Recruiter Control, which revolved around Mystic Tomato, Giant Rat, and Mother Grizzly, giving you an endless supply of monsters to your side of the field to overwhelm your opponent. Other decks like Zombies or Warriors could be considered what would be closest to an archetype. Personally, those are some decks that I would love talking about. But my editors and my writing team wanted to go with the safest option, talking about the tier 0 Chaos deck that everybody loves. But of course, if you want to hear more about old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Points in times and even decks, go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section, as well as like this video. Now, I want you to make no mistake, Yu-Gi-Oh! Had some crazy busted cards back then, and none of them were banned. And what's even crazier is that every single Yu-Gi-Oh! Set at that time gave us at least 2 busted Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. From Legend of Blue Eyes giving us Raigeki and Swords of Revealing Light, Metal Raiders to Sangan in Witch of the Black Forest, Magic Ruler for Delinquent Duo in Forceful Sentry. And on a quick side note, Magic Ruler is probably one of the most disgusting Yu-Gi-Oh! Sets of all time, but that's for an entirely different video. Pharaoh Servant introducing both Jinzo and Imperial Order, Labyrinth of Nightmare giving us Torrential Tribute and Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, Legacy of Darkness with Yata Garasu and Injection Fairy Lily, Pharaonic Guardian with Danzalude and Spear Reaper, Magician Force has Breaker the Magical Warrior and Tribe Infecting Virus, and Dark Crisis with DD Warrior Lady and Sakuretsu Armor. These cards were really powerful, and to name a specific few, monsters like Witch of the Black Forest, Sangan, Danzalude, and Yatagarasu formed a formidable deck called Hand Control, built on being able to deplete your opponent's hand resources and Yatagarasu being able to take care of the rest. Up until Dark Crisis, this is easily one of the most notable and powerful Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks, but wasn't a tier 0 deck at that time. Unfortunately, all of this changes on March 1st, 2004. Invasion of Chaos is simply one of the most game-breaking Yu-Gi-Oh! Sets in the entire history of the card game. As a Yu-Gi-Oh! Boomer myself, I personally remember seeing the commercials for Invasion of Chaos and was completely excited. Invasion of Chaos seemed to have a little something for everybody. Mataza the Zapper to be pretty powerful for warrior-based decks, and Ryukaki giving zombies a really strong monster to be special summoned off of Pyramid Turtle. Umi decks were actually starting to become something with Amphibious Bugroth MK3 and Levia Dragon Deadless, and even Beatdown secretly getting support, changing it to Beastdown. Using cards like Berserk Gorilla alongside of Mad Dog of Darkness combined with Manticore of Darkness meant that you had an endless stream of powerful monsters to be able to summon. Invasion of Chaos simply seemed like a game-breaking Yu-Gi-Oh! Set, and it was, but unfortunately for all of the wrong reasons. Invasion of Chaos' strongest cards inside of the set are the Chaos cards, introducing Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning and Chaos Emperor Dragon Envoy of the End, monsters that can be freely special summoned to the side of the field by just banishing a light and a dark monster. During this period in Yu-Gi-Oh!, special summoning monsters was special. It was incredibly hard to put powerful monsters on your board without putting an investment. These chaos monsters bucked the trend by only needing a light and a dark monster in the graveyard and also having devastating effects, with Blackluster Soldier being able to end games quickly by being able to attack twice, and Chaos Emperor Dragon being able to get rid of all cards on the field in hand and inflict damage to your opponent, while also having the exact same stats as Blue Eyes White Dragon was insane. And to make matters even worse, you were almost guaranteed to be able to use these monster effects. At this point in time in Yu-Gi-Oh! We had a thing called priority, meaning that when a monster was summoned, we could get its ignition effect no matter what. For example, if I were to summon a Blackluster Soldier and you were to use Bottomless Trapple on it, I would be able to gain priority to use Blackluster Soldier's effect to be able to banish a monster on the field. This meant that not only were these cards some of the easiest monsters in the game to summon, you were almost guaranteed to be able to get these game-changing monster effects. And Chaos Emperor Dragon Dragon was seen as the stronger of the two for a couple of reasons. Chaos Emperor Dragon, alongside of a well-placed Sengan or Witch of the Black Forest, allowed you to be able to search Yatagarasu to your hand. And seeing that the effect of Chaos Emperor Dragon emptied your opponent's entire field and their hand, normal summoning a Yatagarasu prevented them from adding any other cards from their deck to their hand, which essentially won you the game. Now, despite most players' beliefs, while this combo was crazy at the time, it wasn't the genuine reason why Chaos was so dominant. It was that alongside of the other powerful cards like Tribe Infecting Virus, which unfairly punished other Yu-Gi-Oh decks, because not only would Tribe Infecting Virus put light and dark monsters into the graveyard for the person using it, it also could put light and dark monsters into the graveyard for the person that it's being used against. Other Yu-Gi-Oh strategies had no way to compete with that. Cards like Delinquent Duo and Raigeki also did the same. While it really sucked to be hit with these particular cards, it's different when you're playing a Chaos deck because it could potentially fuel your graveyard for some of your most powerful monsters. Also, seeing that the most powerful cards in the game were either light or dark monsters, it almost made no sense to play any other card other than those cards to help propel your strategy. And we haven't talked about the other Chaos cards with Dark Magician of Chaos banishing any monster in battles, as well as getting you really powerful spell cards back to your hand like Monster Reborn, Snatch Steal, Raigeki, the works. And Chaos Sorcerer, for a very brief period, being a monster that could be used on both players' turns. The Chaos cards have proved themselves to be some of the most dominant cards in the game, and the 2004 World Championship pretty much proved that point. Not only did the winner, Masatoshi Tagawa, play a Chaos deck, just about every single successful participant at that tournament also followed suit. It just goes to show how dominant Chaos was during that time. If you didn't play a Chaos Yu-Gi-Oh deck, you were playing from behind. Unless you were playing a strategy like Magical Scientist FTK, or found a way to get all 5 pieces of Exodia through Butterfly Dagger FTK or Manicore of Darkness FTK, then you pretty much had to play Chaos, which is really weird that there are multiple FTKs inside of this Chaos format, and Chaos is still the best deck. To make it worse, if you guys remember the cards that I talked about in the very beginning of the video, Chaos actually incorporated every single one of those powerful cards inside of its deck, using the most powerful cards from Legend of Blue Eyes all the way to Invasion of Chaos, with most of them just so happened to be either light or dark monsters, fueled this strategy over the top and made it the most dominant deck in the game. Most Chaos decks even incorporated Magical Scientist, which is a whole nother crazy card in itself. Magical Scientist was a 1-card combo that could instigate an FTK when used alongside of the powerful Catapult Turtle, but Magical Scientist could also be used to be able to put as many light and dark monsters to your graveyard as possible. You see, a very interesting thing about Yu-Gi-Oh in its early days is that there wasn't a limit to how many cards you can play inside of your fusion deck. It could be infinite. Magical Scientist by itself could theoretically fuel any light and dark monsters you wanted into the graveyard to be able to summon your powerful Chaos monsters. And at the cost of a measly 1,000 life points, you can have the perfect counters to your opponent in the right situations. Also, another tricky thing that players were using alongside of Magical Scientist was Book of Moon. You see, if Magical Scientist was flipped face down, then the monsters can attack directly. So not only do you have a powerful dark monster that could summon other light monsters or other dark monsters to your side of the field, this card could potentially end the game by himself, and he's searchable through both Sengan and Witch of the Black Forest. Chaos abused a perfect combination of the best cards all in one strategy. At this point, the community knew something had to happen because limiting or semi-limiting any of these cards didn't do any justice. So after 5 grueling months of dealing with this type of format, Konami stepped forward in August 2004 and introduced the first list to have banned cards on it. The first group of cards to be banned are Chaos Emperor Dragon, Sengan, and Witch of the Black Forest alongside of Yatagarasu. The monster cards being hit on this ban list is a direct response to the Yatagarasu lock while also toning down Chaos. Next were the spell cards Dark Hole, Delinquent Duo, Graceful Charity, Harpy's Feather Duster, Monster Reborn, Raigeki, and United We Stand. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Those other cards seem really good, but why is United We Stand on here? Trust me, the card was actually insane. For the first trap cards, it would be Imperial Order and Mirror Force to be able to make the list. And alongside all of the cards that were limited, Konami did a valiant effort to be able to check not only the Yatagarasu lock, but also Chaos in total. Now, I remember personally during this time when this ban list came out, if I remember correctly, I actually quit Yu-Gi-Oh! I was not a fan of any cards ever being banned. I thought we should have access to all of them. I actually quit Yu-Gi-Oh! For about a week to put WWF on the front of my hobbies, and then The Rock retired and Batista took over. Yeah, it wasn't a good year for me. The hand control chaos deck that we once knew is now officially dead. But unfortunately, Blackluster Soldier would take the mantle as one of the most dangerous cards in the game for the next few years. While Chaos-centric decks were still the forefront of Yu-Gi-Oh!, while not the exact same as the Chaos that I was talking about, Chaos-centric decks still became the forefront of Yu-Gi-Oh! For years to come, and even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You still see players attempting to make Chaos good today. You can say that in fact, Chaos never actually dies. It just morphs into a totally different deck, and that's exactly what happens with our next Tier 0 strategy.